to share and talk about smart the sustainable fashion and the technology.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm just going to give an overview why the whole concept of today's program, the GlobalSpin, it's all related to eco-friendly textiles, handloom, and the technology which is going to be used for apparel fashion. So sustainable fashion is the buzzword, but we need to understand that. And that is what I would like to really quickly give an overview around. Fashion and its impact is tremendous in terms of the kind of negative impact that it is having on the environment. And we need to really understand holistically as to what is the real problem and how we need to address it. If we look at the fashion industry, it consists of 4 levels. The production of raw material, principally the fiber, textiles, leather, and fur. The production of fashion goods by designers, manufacturers, contractors, and others, and also the retail sales and various forms of advertising and promotion. These levels consist of many separate but interdependent sectors, which includes the textile design and production, fashion design and manufacturing, fashion retailing, marketing and merchandising, fashion shows, media and marketing. Each sector is devoted towards satisfying the consumer demand of the apparel under conditions and enable participants of the industry to operate at a profit. Now, when you have to operate at a profit, there are some negativity that creeps in just to really make more profits. The fashion industry, why is it important in the whole ecosystem, is that the contribution of the fashion economy annually is to the revenue of about $2.5 trillion. It's poised to really be a $5 trillion by 2025. However, it is the most resource-intensive industries in the world. Almost 75% of the world's fashion market is concentrated in Europe, US, China, and Japan. Second to oil, the clothing and textile industry is the largest polluter in the world. In the US alone, the largest importer of garments in the world, nearly 40% of the apparel products sold in the US are imported from China. Now, let's look at some numbers. The fashion industry by numbers, as I said, is $2.5 trillion industry. But 20% of the industrial water waste comes from this industry. 10% of the global carbon emissions are due to fashion industry. 85% of the textiles actually end into landfills. This almost amounts to 21 billion tons per year. But what is the most striking fact that there are 150 million lives are touched globally by the apparel industry. And if you really look at, this is the only industry in which there are 80% women throughout the supply chain. So let's look at the environmental impact of fashion. United States Climate Change News states that the fashion industry contributes to 10% of the global greenhouse gas emissions due to its long supply chain and energy-intensive production. In 2018, the fashion industry produced 2.5 billion carbon-2 equivalent and represent 4% of the global carbon emissions, which is almost same to the total contribution by France, Germany, and UK combined. Between 2000 and 2014, the clothing production doubled, and the average consumer buying 60% more pieces of garments as compared to 15 years before. Yet the clothing items now are kept half as long, and 40% of the clothes in our wardrobe are rarely used. Nearly 20% of the global water waste is coming from the dyeing process in the fashion industry. So in terms of the waste, as I said, that's the second largest waste producer, and the waste is mostly because there are almost about 100 billion products that are pumped out, much more than what is actually going to be used by us. So what happens to the remaining? Whether it is remain because they are unsold inventory, or whether it is something that has been produced and we have bought it but we have kept it in our closets and it's never seen the life of the day in terms of the. So there are many products which are not being used but still being bought, and ultimately it goes into the waste. The NPR reports from the Environmental Protection Agency says that 15.51 million ton of textile waste was generated and 12.8 million tons was discarded. Almost the 15% of the fabric intended for clothing ends up in cutting room floor, and the waste rate has been tolerated industry-wide for decades. China, which makes 50% of the world clothing, the indications for the textile waste are mind-boggling. Daily in Hong Kong, there are 253 tons of textile which end into the landfill. Same is true with the water pollution. Cotton farming takes about the major brunt in terms of 24% of the insecticides, 11% of pesticides, despite using only 3% of the world's arable land. Now, 20,000 liters is the amount of water that is needed to produce 1 kilogram of cotton, equivalent to a single t-shirt or a pair of jeans. It takes almost 3,000 liters of water to make one cotton t-shirt. And what we need to understand that this is what is polluting our fresh water, and we will soon be really having water crisis. Also, there is 35% of microplastics going into in the oceans because of the kind of microfibers that have been generated. So what's the way out? Sustainable fashion is the way out. And this is a movement and the process fostering change to fashion products. Sustainable fashion concerns not only looking at the production, not only to the consumption, but the whole system of the way fashion works, which looks at the social, cultural, ecological, and financial systems, which takes care of the users and producers, contemporary and the future dwellers of the earth. So it's not just the responsibility of the government, not the responsibility of the textile manufacturers, but also of the citizens, public sector, and the private sector. And the key to do that is through a system thinking process where we look at the entire fashion chain and look at how the fashion should be designed in the first place and how it should be produced, and subsequently how it should be handled in the whole. So sustainable fashion is meeting today's needs while ensuring that the way to go is meeting those needs that meet the future needs as well. So there are three aspects of it: the social, environmental, and economic, which needs to be socially justified, equitable, as well as taking care of the entire ecosystem. So since fashion has a huge carbon footprint and there is a lot of negative impact, we need to address it, and we need to really look at how the fast fashion needs to be converted into slow fashion. For the paucity of time, I'm not really going to talk much about the fast fashion. Everybody here knows about it, but I will spend a minute more to really look at slow fashion. Slow fashion often consists of durable products, traditional production technologies and techniques, and design concepts that strive to be seasonless or last aesthetically and materially for longer periods of time. The impact of the slowness might really point towards the production planning as well as the way designers design their products and launch their collections. There has to be an emphasis on durability, emotionability, material aesthetics, as well as through the services that prolong the use of the garments. New ideas and new product innovations are constantly redefining slow fashion. So using static single definition would ignore the evolving nature of the concept. The emphasis on slowness in branding is an approach which is specific to creating a niche, and that niche is the eco-friendliness. And that is where the concept, the thought behind today's conclave is. That we look at sustainable and ethical fashion, where we not only look at how the handloom product, which is something which we all really revere and we are very proud of, needs to be really brought at the center stage of sustainability, and we really bring in the new concepts of having textiles which are eco-friendly and apparel production also in the same manner. So some of the new models that are coming up are something that we need to understand how we can really implement that, which basically is giving rise to what is called the circular economy, where you have different kinds of ways to address these problems in terms of creating on-demand production, the way we have tailors who tailor to your own specific needs. The same kind of concept is coming back into the fashion industry, where you will have products which are specifically designed for you, which can be reused for multiple purposes, or you have the same product to be reused by other people by either recycling or reselling. So this is where the world is moving. And one thing which I'd like to point out before I end is that in the traditional life cycle of fashion, we have a linear supply chain. Whereas today the world is moving towards the circular supply chain, which effectively means that you really look at how you could reuse, how you can bring in new processes, new business models, which allow the products to really come back into the entire ecosystem one by one. So one of the things that is moving is the sustainable clothing, sustainable production, sustainable supply chain, and new materials, also reducing the consumption of the fashion industry by using adaptive clothing. Adaptive clothing is something that if you design something that should be available to really grow as the person who's wearing it grows out. So there are new, and this is where the technology comes into picture, where technology influences the whole production process as well as the consumption process. And I'd like to end that this is the area that I have been working on, which is called Fashiontech. And Fashiontech is a characterization of physical form and digital experiences that converge towards your aspirational self. As Fashiontech gets smarter, you'll get into the center of the new universe, which will empower the more dynamic you and predictive algorithms that can give you accurate and actionable results. Just to show something, this is what is happening currently in London Metaverse Fashion Week, which is, I won't spend more time, you can really go to the link that is there to really see what is happening in London at a completely digital thing.
We have short of time, Dr. Ms. Dolly Bhasin, please.
And this is something that we have recently done to really bring in sustainability in the fore, where our students have actually worked on creating sustainable material from waste or designing new products and really bringing in ethnic products into fashion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dolly Bhasin, ma'am. Do we have any questions for her?